Namaste everyone. Thank you so much, Dr Madhusudhan Kalaichelvan sir, for joining us here for the expert talk. And I'm pretty sure I have heard you before in different forums. So I'm sure that, the students of our dance school, Sri Noopurlaya School of Performing Arts, will also be benefited. So I would just like to have a quick introduction about our guru and the school. So Srimati Lalita Ganapati is our guru and my mother as well. So we have been, she has been, teaching. She has around 35 years of teaching, more than 35 years, in fact, of teaching. And she has her direct tutelage from Guru Dr. Padma Subramaniam, like as a Gurukula system. So from a very young age, she's been under her guidance. Of course, we are still under Guru's guidance. So it is a blessing to be under her pedagogy and Sri Noopurlaya School of Performing Arts in Velachery has been here ever since 2014, I think, or even before. We haven't really had a number of counts of the years that we have taught class.
Velachery we started 2003.
Oh, sorry, 2004. I wanted to mention 2004. I mentioned by mistake 2014. Yes. So
it started in 1986.
Yes, she has been teaching like ever since I was very little. So I don't
pretty
even
long
know.
Career.
A very long career, and because she's from that Gurukula system, learning under her and living under the roof of Dr. Padma Subramaniam's house and the dance class, it's such a rich knowledge that we are getting from the Guru herself and our great Grand Guru's guide with Dr. Padma's guidance as well. So as part of a holistic learning of the art, Sri Noopurlaya School here, we mainly focus on not just learning the dance form alone, but naturally arts is related to history. It's intertwined. It is not என்ன சொல்றது ரெண்டு வேற வேறே கிடையாது இல்லையா so ரெண்டு ஒரே விஷயம் அப்படிங்கிறதுனால we focus on teaching them a little bit of dance history and not restricting to dance history. And also now we have extended to we have a class, a little wing called Bharatiya Sanskriti wing, where we have separate sessions on Indian heritage. And we focus on different, we basically touch upon, obviously, as you might know, sir, it is such a big ocean that we cannot really dwell. So our aim is to kindle some curiosity in the students so they can seek and learn more about different topics that cover our Indian heritage, including Shastras, the Bhakti movement, which obviously topic will also be more related to that. And because these kids attend the Natyanjali festivals across Tamil Nadu, so they will be able to relate to that. At the knowledge, program adoda significance that learning will stay with them forever. So we do that, and temple architecture and a little bit of history that we don't really normally read in our school textbooks. நிறைய விஷயங்கள் நம்ம ஸ்கூல் டெக்ஸ்ட் புக்ஸ்ல இருக்கிறது இல்லை. ஸோ அதனால அந்த மாதிரியான டாபிக்ஸ் we cover so that they can appreciate temple architecture and the significance of the construction of the temple and why we are doing like temple rituals also, like agamas, and why certain things are in place. So we create that a little small learning environment for students so they can appreciate art alongside its purpose and meaning. So அதுதான் இப்போ அந்த சன்ஸ்கிருதி விங் நான் கிளாஸ் நடத்திட்டு இருக்கேன். So as part of that, I also welcome you for part of Noopurlaya and Sanskriti group. I hold an MFA in Bharatanatyam from Shastra University, and I've learned the 108 Karanas from Guru Dr. Padma Subramaniam myself. So the knowledge that has been passed on, it's immense. So I wanted to give to our students as well, as much as possible, from experts like yourself. And now I'm currently in London, so my setup it's just heater I am here in London, so I'll be starting my PhD in Natyashastra based movements in London. So so this is just a little brief introduction, and we will have a small Q&A session at the end of the talk. So students, if you have any questions, please note it down. It will be better if we can have the questions later on so that it doesn't interrupt the talk. And please keep your phones as usual on silent, and please be on mute with your videos on so that we know that it'll be a good gathering. Either face to face, so it will be great to have all your videos on so that we can see. Okay, so without further delay, I would just like to pass on the baton to Shri Madhusudhanan, and I would have before moving on, for those who did not had a chance to read the invite properly, a little introduction about Shri Madhusudhanan sir. He's a postgraduate gold medalist architect. He specializes in conservation and architectural research, and he's an active heritage enthusiast and a speaker. I have personally heard many of his talks, and it's mesmerizing. So I love to hear him so many times. Whenever even the same topic now I can hear go on. So he's such a wonderful speaker, and he's well versed in fields of art, architecture, heritage, cultural studies, and vernacular practices. And he's a recipient of a Vedavalli Memorial Award for his outstanding contribution to the South Indian heritage. And he's conferred with the title Ilakkiya Chemmal for his knowledge and prowess in Tamil literature. And he's now currently pursuing his doctoral research in temple town planning, and also serves as a government instituted panel for conservation of temples in Tamil Nadu. So we are extremely honored and privileged to have you here with us, sir. Thank you very much for agreeing to speak to our students, and over to you, sir. I will put your video on spotlight so it will be there for everybody to see.
Sure.
Yes, sir, please.
விண்ணாளும் தேவர்க்கும் மேலாய வேதியனை மண்ணாளும் மன்னவர்க்கும் மாண்பாகி நின்றானை தன்னார் தமிழளிக்கும் தன்பாண்டி நாட்டானை பெண்ணாளும் பாகனை பேணு பெருந்துறையில் கண்ணார் கடல் காட்டி நாயேனை ஆட்கொண்ட அண்ணாமலையானை பாடுதுங்கா நம்மானாய் சித்தம் தெளிவீர்கள் அத்தன் ஆரூரை பக்தி மலர்த்தூவ முக்தியாகுமே. Very good evening to you all. At the outset, I'd like to thank and congratulate the school from not just being a dance school where they impart a tradition which has been handed over to them through a very established and extremely popular Guru Parampara, but also concentrate on Bharatanatyam as a culmination of various different forms of arts. This is a trend which is just setting up, and I'm very happy that your school has already marched deeper into it than other schools, wherein there is already, I learned, a link to TX culture. Indian heritage is one subject that needs a lot of concentration as of now. And Indian culture is so rich that several verticals are intertwined. And in order to appreciate any one of it to its fullest extent, you should be knowing at least a little about several other allied fields, be it performing or visual arts. Extremely unfortunate that the traditional schools are disappearing, and it is becoming very easy for people to manipulate the art form, call it by different name, change the course, change the narrative, and meddle with it without being questioned. And this is happening in various different forums in different ways. And while we feel bad for such things happening around, there are also reasons like this, your school for that matter, which gives us a sense of happiness that such initiatives are being taken over by teachers, and the students are equally supporting their move. Very rightly pointed out by your teacher, when you go out to temples, which used to be the hub of a form of art, be it visual or performing art, used to be the central nucleus of the society. So arts and artists, both of them were dependent to a very great extent on the temple, much so than the courtrooms or the kings and the other patrons. Art forms, especially Indian art forms, not just classical, but even semi-classical or to an extent even tribal art form, predominantly served the deities to begin with. And it was only then that the leisure part and entertainment part came to it. Extremely unfortunate, the scenario has changed upside down, far away. But schools like yours will encourage you to participate in performances, be it the Natyanjalis or the occasions wherever you can actually present in front of the god. They're starting from selecting a song which is appropriate to that temple. yeah, or performing a piece which is actually in some way associated with the temple, needs some sort of an idea on the temple, the deity, the people who've come there, the speciality, the inspirations that went on to compose a song for that temple, and more. That is exactly where all other cultural paradigms, be it architecture, folklore, Sthala Puranas, iconography, agamas, yeah, or I mean, sometimes even the inscriptions, yeah, these are things that can actually come up. If one major reason, apart from her prowess in the dance, Dr. Padma Subramaniam becoming the icon of Bharatanatyam dance. And that's one major reason is, I personally feel, my opinion is that she has an in-depth knowledge on allied fields as much as she has on her own core area. Yeah, when it comes to restructuring the 108 Karanas, which is a tapas by itself. Yeah, I mean, she has several credentials to call a magnum opus. One, the learning the Karanas, mastering it, and training the other generation into it is a major contribution that is, apart from several others, deserves knowledge in Sanskrit, a working knowledge in Sanskrit, understanding the Bharata Shastras, correcting and editing some of the slokas themselves, changing misinterpretations, checking for these. After reading the names of those Karanas in.
I'm sorry to disturb, Madhuji. With this, I think I'm hearing some either video or stuck on audio video. I see that internet connection has a problem of the inter. Is everybody having the same problem, or is it just me who is finding it?
The audio video is pakka.
Is it okay? Fine, because okay, like internet connection, some problem of being this. So I wanted to check if it is a problem at the other end, or I'll probably just move on to
audio video.
Comes up if there is any obstruction from my side.
Okay, just 1 second. I'll probably move on to a different Wi-Fi so that maybe this can be better avoided from my side. I just wanted to check if it is just for me or in general.
It's fine for others, right? Okay.
Okay. Okay. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
Okay, sir. I think we should be okay now. Sorry for the interruption. Please.
No problem. So can I continue? So one major factor that made her the central icon of Bharatanatyam for this century, to represent this art form as that of India in world stage, is her immense knowledge in several other allied fields of dance. I mean, the closed circuit, you might have music and some knowledge in layam and other instruments, but even outside that, alternate forms of performing arts, theater, aesthetics, color sense. I mean, when you choose your aharyam, there should be a lot of thought process that should have gone into it. Working with these doyens, these are those little parameters that I have also learned from them. So it gives me immense happiness that a school in Chennai, which comes in such a celebrated lineage of acharyas, is taking a step ahead and pacing it up, wherein culture, Indian culture and heritage is taught to you, yeah, in whatever level possible, as a dance school, where most of you are learning it. As you will all be having your own mainstream career also, apart from that, learning this, and within that, having a sub course like this is to be appreciated. And I really wish good luck and my prayers to the institute, and I seriously wish the students put this to the best possible use. Yeah, so with that, I would like to start my presentation. You'll have to enable sharing the screen, madam. Is the screen visible? Great. So I've just titled this presentation as The Sacred Grooves of Chennai, And as we all know, the city of Chennai, I'm sure most of you are probably born and raised here, or at least accustomed to this city. Some of the most popular icons of this city includes, of course, the coastline and some very beautiful British buildings. At the same time, adapting ourselves to modern requirements amidst whatever is heritage. Chennai city, unlike other cosmopolitans, is a fine slice of at least 2000 years of evolved cultural history of Tamil Nadu. So wherever we are, whatever we are in Chennai, just walk down any chosen road, any road for that matter, just pick a road and walk down. You would identify elements, architectural or traditional or cultural, which is not necessarily from the same century. It would at least be majority of the buildings here or the construction types will all have at least 2-century old history. That's the reason why in the heart of the city, while you have all sophisticated living standards and everything that has evolved, we still have raising temple towers, temple ponds, and festivals that marks the calendar of this city. So we just getting to know about a city which we are also used to. And I'm sure most of you are proud of being a part of it too. So as much as you have the city with its long running coastline, but what determined the development of the city here? A city where the eastern development is kind of restricted because of the coastline is nothing but a collection of several small villages, but each of it steeped in history, starting from Thiruvattriyur in the north, Thiruvallikeni, a little down south is Thirumailai or Mailapur as it is called today. Finally, Thiruvanmiyur, which is even today almost, administrative level, this is the southernmost boundary of Chennai. Apart from this, of course, there are dozens of other settlements which are actually equally old too. Some of the settlement names which are still seen in inscriptions starting from the 11th and 12th century. Not sure how many of you might be knowing Tangal as a settlement very close to Velachery that we are all used to, it's a happening place today. That finds its reference starting from 12th century Chola period inscription. In fact, this whole region was called as Tangal. Kotam, that was the name. It's like a municipality, a small level administrative unit. That is how Tangal was called. I'm just telling about one example. Yeah, there are enough of such examples to many places in the city of Chennai. An anecdote here, probably even the names of each of your neighborhood, wherever you are from, try and find out the name. There will be a fine slice of history available for you. For that matter, names like Adambakam and Nungambakam is probably from the Sangamira kings, Adan and Nungan, who were ruling this part of Tamil Nadu. The northern parts with Tirupati as their capital. I mean, Chennai is pretty close to Tirupati, and as a ruling zone from Tirupati, they were ruling. Two brothers, probably after whom two lakes have been remembered. And today, the lakes almost, it's all over. At least the Adambakam lake is there, Namkevas, but Nungambakam, we don't find a lake. But thankfully, two lakes were named after them, the kings. And for all you know, those two lakes would have been from the Sangam period, which is roughly 2,200 years old. Next time you walk past or drive past Adambakam lake, stand there for a moment and think about this king whom we have forgotten from where he is, what he is, but he belongs to the Sangam era and he has ruled this place. And it was during his time, probably, this huge water body was dug and, the local agricultural activities, the irrigation part was taken charge. So today's session for the next 40-45 minutes is going to be predominantly on the 4 chosen temples, all of which have one thing in common. All these 4 temples have been active at least since the 5th, 6th century, at least, 1,600 years old, roughly. Because it was during that time, 1,500 years, 600 years back, you've had notable worshipful saints who were also poets, composers themselves, have visited these temples, most of them physically, and have stayed here, had a darshan as much as we do today, and have sung about these deities in some beautiful composition. So we're going to be looking at these 4 temples. It's going to be a quick visit to all the 4, wherein I'm not going to introduce the basics of the temple because some of these I'm sure you would have visited. Just going to give you anecdotes about the temple, which would probably maybe enhance your experience when you go there next. You'll be seeing some photographs of it and maybe also learn a couple of songs, compositions authored on those temples, which also speaks about the place as it was. So let's get started with the northernmost one, which is Thiruvattriyur. is dedicated to Shiva. And here he takes a very unique name as Padampakka Nadar, because it's an ant hill, one of the most earliest icons of worship, an ant hill, which was considered to be Shiva himself. Till date, the ant hill is active. And this has been active for almost 1400 years. And in order to protect it, an ant hill to be protected for 1400 years is no easy job. So they have managed to design a casing, a silver casing, which closes the ant hill. And on the casing is when the Abhishekam and all that is performed. Once in 3 days a year, very close to the Kartigai Deepam festival in November, December, this casing is open and the deity can be worshipped as he was, for hundreds of years together. And it's very interesting to note that the name Votriyur quite literally means a rented place. Appar, who visited this place, asks Shiva as to whether, what is wrong with you? You have the whole world for you. But still, if you wanted to rent a piece of land here and stay here, now I understand how much you love this place. So this is called as Votriyur, a place where Shiva is residing. And it's interesting also to note that one of the early Chola kings was called as Votriyuran. The moment we say Chola, we immediately think about Tanjavur and Kaveri, Thiruvarur, Thiruvayar, and that's where it gets over, right? That's not the case. Pretty popular Chola kings, including Rajaraja and Rajendra, all these names, they've all come to some of these temples. Yeah, and they have actually visited the deity themselves. Next time when you go to Thiruvattriyur and stand in front of Padambakkanathar, be informed, the stone tablet on which you are standing to have a darshan is exactly where Rajendra Chola probably stood, commanded the temple to be renovated with stone blocks to make it look like what it is today. Develop this sense when you go there. This will, this will enhance your respect and love for the place which we all call ours. We all have some rights over it. It's ours. It's our heritage. It's been handed over through so many centuries. So many people have given their life and soul and everything possible to protect these and have handed it over to us. Yeah. So when you go there next, go in with the sense that you're walking right through the same threshold through which probably Appar Swamigal walked. You're standing pretty much in the same place where Rajendra Chola stood, and you're worshipping the same Murti who had seen the test of time, because it was, after all, this Lord who commands time itself. That's the temple for you. If there is one temple that I would suggest anybody on a very quick trip, somebody says, I just have 3 hours time, but I would like to get a good holistic approach, view on temples and history and other things, Thiruvattriyur is the place. Yeah, it's just moved far away from the heart of the city today, but this is where accurate layers of history of South India can be traced and understood. And if you might not be knowing, several interesting compositions, dance numbers in fact, have been authored on this lot. This temple probably saw the last bunch of well-trained and totally dedicated Devadasis. Of course, Kapalishwara Koil also had its own, but Thiruvattriyur seemed to have had several Devadasis who have performed to the joy of the Lord there. And one personally famous favorite inscription to me here is 2 inscriptions that I can recall about the Devadasis. One is Veerarajendra's wife requested the Devadasis of this temple to dance for Manikavachakar's Tiruchazhal, a work of Manikavachakar, to bless him with longevity. The inscription actually says, Tammar Tammudaya Tali Bakiyattirkai Vendin. So for the longevity of the king, the queen requested the Devadasis here to sing and perform Tiruchazhal of Manikavachakar. Yeah, and very interestingly, the Devadasis here fought against remuneration that was probably a pittance, not just for 1 or 2 years, or it went on for like close to 300 years before it was settled for good. It went through starting from the Cholas to the Vijayanagaras until the Nayaka times. This got extended. So they have actually fought for it, while at the same time they were also serving the Lord without saying, no, if the remuneration is not going to increase, we are not going to work, was not their claim. We'll keep working, but we'll also fight for our rights. So 2 very interesting inscriptions, and you get a detailed idea about the hierarchy of the temple dancers and the numbers that they danced for. Apart from dance, all the other services that they were doing too, which included mopping the temple, drawing columns, maintaining the garden, making the garlands, getting water for Abhishekam, bringing the food that was prepared in the Madapalli, in fact, carrying the Lord himself. To carry the Lord on their shoulders and also to dance, look at the stamina that should be having, especially Tyagaraja Swami of Thiruvaru, which is a very individual very unique worship system, a very unique form of deity, totally in mystic traditions, which is mostly maintained as a secret. The deity was completely taken care of the dancers themselves. Yeah, and this temple has Tyagaraja Swami. The temple is very closely associated with the life history of Sundaramurti Swamigal, one of the Nayanmars, who married a woman here called Sangili Nachiyar. And Tyagaraja Swami, and a very unique form of Shiva who is worshipped with very interesting, different forms of worship, in fact. The temple also finds reference to administration of the temple by Kapalikas starting from the 11th century. We all think Kapalikas and Kalamukas and all these very not so popular schools of Shaivism is restricted to Kashi and North India. The very streets of Tiruvattriyur and Mylapore has been populated by them once upon a point in time, and they were active participants in the temple administration also. So pretty much here, they were also patronized. They have their own madams where they would stay, they would be fed, they would also take part in the temple administration. And so that's something unique. There is a very unique form of Dakshinamurti in this temple, who is housed in a separate shrine. If at all you get to go there, you will have the shrine of a grand shrine of Tyagaraja Swami. Just behind it, in a shrine which not many people actually visit, you would see a very, very unique form of Dakshinamurti called Aghora Dakshinamurti, who holds a Kapala Patram and whatnot. So a very unique iconography with which he is seated. Two other icons, Vigrahas, which are worshipped, that needs to be mentioned here, are a life-size image of Kala Bhairava. A grand image, in fact. I'm sure you would have all seen the Murti as such, and he has a Jatabaram, pretty much similar to Shiva. But here, the Jatabaram is so overgrown that it flows through his shoulders, falls down, and actually gets coiled near the floor. That's how grand and detailed the hairdressing of this particular Bhairava Murti has been depicted in their times. The deity here is called as Eluttari Nadar, the one who taught to read and write. And there is a mandapam here called as Vyakarana Dhana Mandapam, where it is identified by a few scholars is where Shiva probably gifted out Panini, the grammar text for Sanskrit language. So Paniniyam, the Vyakarana for grammar, was probably authored here in Tiruvattriyur. I mean, this is in our neighborhood, and this is probably where scholars think that Panini actually authored Sanskrit grammar. Though you can now imagine how old a place is in our own neighborhood, and I'm not sure how many in the audience. I see 30 children here. How many of you have visited Tiruvattriyur? I don't know. But try and see if you can make it a habit to visit these ancient temples pretty much inside Chennai. It won't take you more than 3 or 4 hours, at least once or twice a month. You can always plan a weekend. All weekends needn't necessarily be films and other places that other people ought to. You as artists who have a major duty on your shoulders to protect heritage and culture and take it over to the next generations, if at all there is one place where you can start with, they are the temples. So try and see if you can visit these temples pretty much in our neighborhood, and at least once or twice a month, and see and understand and analyze these places. This temple has been visited by saints and poets even till the last century, and that list includes Patinathar, Tyagaraja Swami, Sadguru Tyagaraja Swami, Muthuswami Dikshitar, Arunagirinadar, and who not. Yeah, Ganam Krishnaya, who would come here and stayed here when he was, when he was hosted in the governor house to perform in front of the English people. He got to stay here at Tiruvattriyur, and he has composed this very beautiful padam on Tyagaraja Swami of Tiruvattriyur Tyagarajan, a very popular padam, in fact. So, the temple has so much so strong connect with performers, especially dancers. If at all you get a chance to go there, go in a mood to actually perform. There are a couple of mandapas where nobody would stop you from actually performing. Yeah, get your song recorded, play it there, and perform to your happiness. I tell you, nothing can, no sabha, nowhere in the world can get you the happiness of having the Lord himself in audience and performing for him. Yeah, that is where art gets the divinity tag to it. And I tell you, people who have started their career in such stages have gone to the biggest and the most powerful of stages across the globe. Yeah, so Tiruvattriyur is one place. If you haven't been, please go there. And as artists, you are the people who should actually go there. Starting from Upper Swami's time, the roaring seashores of Thiruvattriyur finds a mention in their compositions. Palavu mannangal panmalarmel tunjum kalava manjegal karana velgurum ulavu paimbol sood Thiruvattriyur. Thiruvattriyur was so naturally rich. The groves around the settlement had swans which were busy on lotus ponds. The peacocks with long tails had the mistake with the gardens. They thought that the gardens were clouds and felt shy and started dancing because the grooves were so thick, the foliage was so thick that it didn't penetrate. One stream of sunlight couldn't penetrate, and it suddenly became dark, and the peacocks thought that the monsoon is out there and it's going to rain, and they started dancing there. Yeah, these are some very beautiful metaphors and that they have brought in, to tell you that the greenery was so thick and in abundance. They've used this very beautiful metaphor of a peacock, considering it as a monsoon season and starting to dance. So that's Thiruvattriyur. Today, of course, it's very hard to see even one tree there in Thiruvattriyur. Omattal Nanmaregal, Odal Ova, Olithigalum, Ottriyur, Uraihindrane. This place echoed with the Chaturvedas. The Pandits were performing a lot of fire sacrifices, and the Chaturvedam was always heard here in Thiruvattriyur. Vidigalangal Nedigadalul Nindru Tondra, Tiremoda Karayeri Sangamurum Thiruvattriyur. The seashore is again being mentioned here. The vessels that were sailing here, because there was an active port here in Thiruvattriyur during those times. So the vessels that were flowing here, the port was very active with ships coming in and going out. So when they come in every time into the harbor, the waves would rise. As the waves rose, the conches in the deep ocean would be pushed ashore by themselves, it seems. You needed deep dive to get shells here in Thiruvattriyur. The beach front was very active with ships coming in and going out. So with every high tide and low tide change, the conches in the deep bedrock of the sea used to be pushed out by itself. Yeah, so it would crawl by themselves. Tangum, Ippiyum, Salachalam Murala, Vairam Muttodu Ponmani Varandri, Wonkumakadal, Vodam Bandulavum, Ottriyurenum Ururai Vane. This identifies Shiva as a resident of Thiruvattriyur, where conches, oysters make a salasalanu sound. The சத்தம் இருக்கு இல்லையா, சங்கு எடுத்து இப்படி காதுல வச்சா சல்லுன்னு ஒரு சத்தம் வரும். இந்த சிப்பி எல்லாம் சேர்த்து இப்படி குவிச்சு வச்சீங்கன்னா சலன்னு ஒரு சத்தம் வரும். அந்த சத்தம் இருந்துகிட்டே இருக்குமா? Is it only oysters and conches that you get here? No. You also get wealthy gemstones and precious pearls, semi-precious stones, all of it from Thiruvattriyur beaches. That's how rich the place was. This is from the 7th century. We're slightly going down south to the next stop on the seashore, the very popular Thiruvallikeni, or Triplicane as it is called today. A unique temple, this one is also, it's a twin temple. If you might not be knowing, there are two temples inside the same campus with two different Madapalli and two different Dvajastambam, two different Brahmotsavams and all that. One is that of Parthasarathi Perumal, that's very popular, we've all visited. The other is on the rear side, temple dedicated for Yoga Narasimha. It's an individual temple by itself. It's not a shrine inside the main temple. Here, Krishna is enshrined in a very unique form. I don't think he takes the same form anywhere else in the world as the charioteer, Parthasarathi for Arjuna. And what makes it even more interesting is he's there with all his family members. He has his wife Rukmini standing next to him, brother Balarama, his son Satyaki, Pratyumna, his grandson, and all of them together. It's like a family portrait that's enshrined inside the temple. So you have Krishna, his wife, his elder brother, younger brother, son, grandson, everybody around to pose together. A very, very unique shrine. The temple has been named after the lily tank. If any time you visit any of these ancient places, take this up as an assignment. The first thing probably that should strike you is, why is this place called by this name? Yeah, the name, the etymology for a place. I tell you, it is not a boring one. You can Google out also. Yeah, but it will give you a lot of theories. Once you develop an interest to it, you will find very interesting anecdotes and very, very unknown stories that might actually force you to think, well, are we from a place which is this old? For us, Chennai is cosmopolitan, extremely modern. Yeah, there is nothing old to it. Let me tell you, this is nothing but old wine in new bottle. Always. That's the case when it comes here. So the temple town, the temple settlement of Thiruvallikeni is now named after the beautiful lily tank out there, Alli Keni. Very interesting inscription starting from the later Pallava period, and some fragmentary inscriptions have been discovered too. It speaks about a golden bowl gifted to the Perumal, in which milk was to be offered every night. Here, Ranganatha, the reclining form of Vishnu, is identified in the Alvar songs. So he is identified as the first resident of Tiruvallikeni. Even before Parthasarathi Perumal came in, there is a shrine where you would see Vishnu in a reclining form on his Adisesha. So that is identified as the earlier shrine than Parthasarathi Perumal. This temple houses 5 different forms of Mahavishnu as Parthasarathi, the charioteer, Ranganatha, Yoga Narasimha, Varadaraja of Kanchipuram, and Rama, along with his brothers and Sita and Hanuman and all of them. So there are 5 different forms there. A very interesting detail to note here is because Narasimha is in his yoga form. He is here as Yoga Narasimha, just in order to ensure that he is not disturbed by people. The tongs in the bell there has all been removed. See, that's the amount of detailing. The door of any shrine will have bells attached to it, right? So the clapper, which is there in the center, which actually makes the noise, has all been removed. Next time you go there, take a look at the bells fixed to the door of Narasimha. You would be surprised to know that the clappers have been beautifully removed just to make sure that his yogam is not disturbed by people. The processional deity here has these marks on his face. So there are reasons, religious reasons proposed for that. Unique festivals happen almost throughout the year. I mean, actually every month. Every month there is at least one 10-day festival to one or the other deity. The place is just buzzing with so many festivals, and it's a beautiful ecosystem. I would call this a minor Srirangam because every resident there has a connect with the Perumal. They are also, they consider him to be a family member, and their first and foremost duty is to be at his service. Yeah, their social life, their personal life, their relationships, professional commitment, everything takes a backseat when it comes to Perumal. That's something very unique of Tiruvallikeni. So, I mean, most of the services that the householders there are committed to is not remunerated. It's service in its true sense. Yeah, that's how the people are. Be it carrying the Lord through all the processions, or chanting Tamil Prabandham, or the Vedas, or grinding the sandal paste for Perumal, or the woman there drawing all those beautiful columns for Perumal's procession, whatever. Majority of it is all done as a kainkariam in its true sense. The Triplicane has this very special aspect of having these very teeny tiny apartments from which some of the most popular figurines in various different disciplines have made their way. Yeah, I mean, there is no end to this list, starting from musicians to dancers to mathematicians like Sri Ramanujam, who not? They've all made it big to the world, and several of them are from Tiruvallikeni. Thirumangai Alvar has some special reference and reverence, in fact, to the women folk of Tiruvallikeni. He says the women who are here are uncomparable, they are matchless. I don't know for whatever reasons that is. Today, to me personally, probably he was also moved by the way the women, though they had their own family and all the beauties associated with it, you would see most of them throughout the day in one service or the other of the temple also. They are truly matchless. Oppavarilla Madargal is the name that the woman of Tiruvallikeni was given by Thirumangai Alvar. Kuravame Kamalum, Kudir Podilude, Kuyirodu Mailgal Nindrale, Iraviyin Kadirgal, Nulaidal Seidariya, Tiruvallikeni. Once again, Tiruvallikeni was just surrounded with thick bushes, and the foliage was very, very thick. Yeah, I mean, it just had beautiful grooves. And as the song goes, Iraviyin Kadirgal Nulaidal Seidariya. Ravi is Surya. Not one stream of sunlight could ever penetrate through Tiruvallikeni because of the trees that were there. It was very tough. The canopy was so thick. Thenamar Solai Madama Mailai Tiruvallikeni. Tiruvallikeni was more a suburb to a more popular and a well-designed layout of Mylapore, even in those days. So even today, you'd see, I mean, today we of course have other segments like a part of Alvarpet and Rayapet and all that, but all of this was once upon a time the unified Mylapore zone. So once you cross Mylapore, Tiruvallikeni is like in its suburbs. So Alvar identifies Tiruvallikeni as a part of Mylai, near the Mylai, which is mansioned, and it is really wealthy a place. With that heads on, we move to our next stop, which is Mylai. I'm sure all of you in the audience would have visited at least this temple once, right? I'm very much sure. So this is like the cultural capital of Chennai city, and religion, arts, heritage, culture, all along has been pretty much preserved here. This is like the central nucleus, and walking down the streets of Mylapore will certainly transfer you over to a generation ahead of yours. The deity Mylapore, it's one of the oldest port town, and it is identified in references in the travelogues of people like Ptolemy, starting from around the 3rd century of the Common Era. That's roughly 1,700 years back. Mylapore was identified as a happening port town. The traditional legend says that Parvati was cursed to be born as a peahen, and she visited this temple and worshipped Shiva in the same form. And Shiva gave her a divine darshan on the Uttaram star of Panguni month, which is the Panguni Uttaram festival, and married her on that day. That's why the annual festival is still celebrated coinciding with the Panguni Uttaram. Panguni Uttaram is the 10th day of the grand festival that happens in March, April. So the temple has been rebuilt in this place around the 1700s. So the temple, as you see today, is roughly 300 years old. From traditional references to the place of this temple in songs, we are informed that it was pretty much on the seashore. Arunagirinadar actually says, Kadal alayala vandu adichittu pogra alavukku this is very close in proximity to the beach and solli Arunagirinadar has sung in his Tirupugal. So even till the 13th, 14th century, that has been the case. And then we have the French and the Portuguese and the Dutch and who not. They were all trying to claim ownership over the land, over our land, and they didn't think twice about fighting or demolishing structures. So in order to take charge of the beach front, the temple was probably demolished, and much later, so the temple didn't exist close to a couple of centuries. Thankfully, the murtis were retrieved from there and rebuilt in the place that it is today. So Kapalishwara as a name probably suggests that the deity was also under the worship of the Kapalikas. Thiruñana Sambandar had visited this temple in 7th century, and much after him, I think Arunagirinadar comes in around the 15th century. Thiruñana Sambandar is associated with a very, very interesting legend of how a girl called Poombavai, who was a Shaivite, whose parents were very staunch Shiva devotees, groomed her up thinking that she could get married to Jnana Sambandar. Unfortunately, before Sambandar's visit here, the girl was bitten by a snake and dies due to poisoning. The parents, grief-struck, they perform all the samskaras and retain the relics of their daughter in a mud pot. Just in case, they thought they could hand it over to Jnana Sambandar when he comes to Tirumailai. And on his trip to Mylapore, Jnana Sambandar learns about all the happenings, and he commands the parents to bring the relics pot in front of Kapalishwara and starts singing. A very beautiful set of composition wherein Jnana Sambandar has in detail described all the festivals that happen in Mylapore, month after month. So he starts from Aipasi, and every month festival he has detailed out in one verse each. So a set of 13 songs, he has documented the festivals that are celebrated in Mylapore as early as the 7th century. And it is beautifully designed in a way asking Poombavai, why did you leave so early without taking part in this festival that's celebrated in a grand scale in this particular month? So that's the theme in which he has authored all the stanzas, and the closing verses he prays to Kapalishwara. And as the tradition goes, the pot, the relics, the jar that contained the relics cracked open, and a girl came out in her full bloom. And so Jnana Sambandar, this is one of the miracles that Jnana Sambandar performed during his pilgrimage, and that was what happened in Mylapore. So a very interesting story that which is to be remembered. And I've been telling this to several schools. I'm not sure if anybody has done it. This set of Devaram is actually worth a presentation, a performance, in fact, not just a presentation, a performance. In fact, this is one place where you can bring in some temple traditions and temple ritual performances and agamic notes also, when you can set this, it's set to traditional tune. So the story and the festivals as it was celebrated in the 7th century is something that a dance school can actually make into a solid 30 or a 40-minute production for themselves. And the temple, as I told you, was demolished during foreign invasion and hence built in the recent place. So the present temple is roughly 300 years old. Several fragmentary inscriptions starting from the Chola period are identified there, but it only proves the fact that the original temple where these inscriptions were in full have all been chopped off. Yeah, I mean, broken into pieces, and they managed to collect all these, broken pieces and use whatever could be used. So they have reused it in this temple. Grand festival are celebrated around the year till date. A temple which has seen some fantastic patronage, which still receives a lot of patronage. So it's an emotional connect also to several citizens of Chennai. Yeah, I mean, several families I can recall who were probably living close to Mylapore or this part of Chennai have moved away for whatever reasons. But when it comes to the Arvati Mover or the Ther festival, they all make it a point to come here and actually participate in it. My own family, I can say that though we have moved far away from Mylapore, my parents and all, they still make it a point to come here to Arvati Mover, get drenched in that the summer afternoon and get into the rush actually and try to get a glimpse of the deity and come back home and take rest for the next 2 days. Though that is all there, it's a package and you need to enjoy it with all that. Yeah, so thanks to whatever has been happening in the last 2 years, things have reduced, but again, things are slowly getting back to what used to be the normal then. So Mylapore, Jnanasambandar sings about the rising sea waves there. Urdilai velai ulavum uyar mayilai, he says. So the sea waves rise all the way up and fall down, and there Kurdaru velvallar kotram kol sheri. He also speaks about the fishermen who are there, who are known to be always holding on to their spear. Madalarnda Tengin, Mayilayar Masi, Kadalattu Kandan, Kabali Charamamarndan. This is about Masi Magam festival, which is actually around the corner. In a couple of days, it's there. And that's the festival, according to Agamas, the full moon night of the month of Masi, when the deities, be it the Vaishnavite or the Shaivite, both the temples do it, or even sometimes the deities that belong to non-agamic temples also, they're all taken to the closest seashore, and the deity is actually given a dip in the sea water. So it's a procession to the beach. If you can be there that day early morning on the beach road, to be a very unique sign to see all the signal lights being not respected at all, and the deity is actually marching past and going in colorful processions. So completely, I mean, all possible temples from whichever is close to the beach, all of them from Chindadripet and Mount Road, whatnot, the Egmore, all the deities would be taken to the beach and they would actually be given a dip there in the sea water. So this is a tradition from Jnanasambandar's time. So he says, Kadalattu Kondan, the one who is actually given a bath in the beach, in the sea water. Turaikonda Shembavalam, Irulahatrum Sodi Tonmayilai. One more verse which speaks about how rich the city of Mylapore was. The long coastline was lit well in the evening times, it seems. Once it gets dark, it used to be lit well. What did they use to light it? It was not lamps, but the coral beads and the pearls that were washed ashore from the sea used to streamline the coast. And as the night sets in, the pearl and the well-polished coral beads would actually illuminate the coast front. So that's how rich and fertile the city of Mylapore was. Now, shifting over to Thiruvanmiyur, another, I mean, this is where the city of Chennai kind of gets over, the south end. And this kind of is a landmark today because this is where the East Coast Road, the scenic East Coast Road actually starts. The deity here is called as Aushadhishwara or Marundishwara. The name Marundishwara comes from the fact that he is blessed Agastya with a medical treatise which suggests cure for close to 4,444 diseases. Please don't ask me for the list. This is what the Sthala Purana says. This is probably an exhaustive list, all probable ailments, and Shiva has given him the Ayurveda texts here. The processional deity in this temple, similar to Thiruvattriyur, he is also called as Tyagaraja Swami. That's the temple campus. Here, Tripura Sundari, or the consort of Shiva, yeah, the most beautiful woman she is, that's the oldest shrine in the temple. In fact, that used to be the shrine for Shiva initially. That was where Shiva was housed. Much later, this temple because this was, 100 years back, Thiruvanmiyur was no man's land. Nobody used to would want to actually be residents here. Today, it's a very happening place. But a good 100 years back, this was not at all a chosen neighborhood. In fact, this was popular for dacoits, thieves, murderers, and whatnot. The Buckingham Canal, once it was dug, what would you would see running parallel between the East Coast Road and the old Mahabalipuram Road? You would have seen a water there, front there. That's what is called as the Buckingham Canal, which was very active, where actually boats were being rowed. That used to be the chosen route to escape to Pondicherry. During the freedom struggle, I learned from some of the residents. I'm a resident of Thiruvanmiyur, so with some interest in the place, I've been talking to some of the old residents here. One gentleman told me about how a couple of families, which was associated with the Congress party then, the freedom fighters time, they were active here, apparently, and people who invited trouble from the Britishers would have to escape to Pondicherry. That was a trend then, right? Because Pondicherry was a French colony. Once they enter Pondicherry, they were safe. So in order to escape to Pondicherry, they used to take the Buckingham Canal route. Because Buckingham Canal goes all the way up to Maracana, outskirts of Pondicherry. So they used to go in the night times. They would manage to sneak into the catamarans, and they used to be driven there to Pondicherry. And so, but before that, once they escaped the British warrant, for them to forget the case, till then, they would actually find refuge here in this temple. Because this temple was partly fallen down. Nobody actually took care of it. Hardly any puja or rituals were conducted here. So this turned out to be a very successful hideout for freedom strugglers. I mean, British people who were against the British. So the freedom struggle movement, this temple, interestingly, has a link to the freedom struggle movement also. And as an extension, the gentleman also told me how shepherds used to bring their sheep and the cattle into the temple, because the temple had bushes. So nobody actually took care of the temple. So for the cattle to graze, this was a good place. And the family of congressmen used to send food for the people who were hiding here through these shepherds and cowherds. So they used to get the food, help them. And after a couple of weeks of staying inside the temple, one fine night, they'll manage to go and take the catamaran, the Buckingham Canal, and escape to Pondicherry. So, I mean, I couldn't imagine this temple turning out to be a hideout place. Today, come a Pradosham, and the temple will be buzzing with like 10,000 people inside. But 100 years back, during the freedom struggle also, this was the chosen hideout for people who wanted to escape the British wrath. Here in this shrine of Tripura Sundari, when you go there next, if you've not seen it till date, the front portico mandapam, the grand Mahamandapam there, it's a classic Vijayanagara period production. And you would see some very interesting, unique icons of deities. Yeah, especially the roof panel is a grand depiction of the Sri Chakram, with Devi as Tripura Sundari seated right in the center, attended by the 16 Nitya Devis, who are called as Titi Nitya Devis. A fortnight in our traditional calendar, we call it a Paksham, right? A calendar of 15 days becomes a Paksham between a full moon and a new moon. Yeah, so we have, and the new moon and the full moon also. So we have 2 Pakshams a month, with including the moon days. It's a total of 16 days. All these 16 Titis are identified as Devis, as Titi Nitya Devis, and they are accommodated in the Mahameru, in the Sri Chakram, as attendants to Lalita Tripura Sundari. So they are depicted in their full form here in this particular Sri Chakram that you would see in the wall, the ceiling panel of Tripura Sundari's shrine. There are a couple of well-preserved inscriptions from the time of Rajendra Chola, who mentions that he had set up a garden right in front of the temple to the eastern side of to the western side of the temple, and the list of garlands to be made every day and handed over to the temple. So around 12th century, the temple was very active, where none less than the illustrious son of Rajaraja Chola himself had gifted a piece of land, declared it to be the temple garden, employed a gardener to take care. The inscription also, of course, speaks about the remuneration for the gardener and his duties. And the gardener's, the number of garlands that he has got to make every day to be offered to the deity. All of it is seen there. And donations for burning a lamp in the temple, because those days, burning a lamp was the most needed donation to the temple. So many of them used to donate lamps. And as a matter of fact, when you were found guilty of any mistake, the most common way of punishment was to hand over lamp to the temple. So by that, you will have to set up a corpus fund to burn a lamp every day. That becomes a prayachittam for the person who has committed the mistake, because you're burning a lamp there. According to traditions, lighting a lamp in the temple is one of the easiest ways for asking to be forgiven. So a prayachittam also happens. Secondly, the temple is also illuminated. So you have two ways. It's a win-win situation for both. The temple has references to close to 12 different water bodies considered sacred with the temple, associated with the temple. And today I was able to trace like 5 of them, and the 5th one being the seashore itself. Thankfully, nobody had occupied that. So the seashore is there. Apart from that, you have 2 full-fledged water tanks, one which is outside the temple and one inside, and 2 tanks that had been reduced to be wells. A huge tank had shrunk itself to a well today, but only these 5 water bodies have been discovered so far. I'm not sure what happened to the remaining 6 or 7. One of the water bodies, which used to be on the western side of the temple, on the East Coast Road, the moment you enter, to your right, you would see a huge shopping complex kind of a structure. That's a local market. That's owned by the temple, of course, and that's a revenue generation for the temple. But unfortunately, that was built after closing a tank. You can actually see that would actually go down. The difference in road height, you can see. You'll have to drive down a ramp to get into that market space. That used to be a water body. Thankfully, the rains still remember that used to be the kolam. And every time there is a shower, that changes into a kolam till date. Loose sculptures of a Pallava period Chandikeshwara is seen in the shrine. Yeah, that's probably the oldest icon in the temple, apart from the Moolamurtis. Very interesting Sthala is associated with this temple. The Sthala has been authored only in the last 300 odd years. And the Sthala identifies this to be a chosen site, shrine, for all possible devatas to come and worship for a prayachittam. And the list includes Surya, Chandra, Rama, all the 4 Vedas, Kamadhenu, Agastya, Valmiki, just everybody. Yeah, they've all come to this shrine according to the Sthala and have worshipped the deity. And this is enacted every year as a part of the annual celebration. So if you look at the invitation poster for this temple's annual festival, it's very interesting to note how every day there is also a column in the festival list which says who is the one who's blessed that day by Shiva. Yeah, and it's some of these deities also have a bronze icon who are brought out. Rama, for example, he'll be brought out in the procession, made to stand opposite to Shiva as a devotee. He'll actually do a procession and worship Shiva to be blessed. So, a piece of literature gets transformed into the tradition and practice. This is one simple example to show you how various different cultural elements get together to weave something that's very interesting and which has an impact on the society also. Yeah, so that's how art plays a very important role in developing the society as a very full of responsible citizens. And Tyagaraja here, as a dancer himself, performs a nadanam every night during the annual festival. It's actually around the corner. I think it starts somewhere on the 7th or 6th of March and goes on till the 18th or 19th. So every night there is a grand dance that Tyagaraja performs. There are some videos on YouTube, but if you're around close by, and if parents can come along with you, please do participate. It happens well close to midnight. I tell you, around 11:30, 12 it takes. So if you can have your parents or guardians, please do come along with them. He actually dances on the East Coast Road. It's a sight to watch. People putting up barricades and stopping the traffic, whatever that's going to be there in the midnight, and making place for the deity to perform his dance in a very elaborate fashion. And it's a beautiful coordination in which Tyagaraja performs his nadanam with chosen instruments and dhupam, deepam, chatram, shamaram, whatnot. It's a classic scene that shouldn't be missed. Yeah, if I'm forced to make a list of 10 things not to be missed in Chennai, all these will definitely be in the list. So it's around the corner, and if you can, please do come. And so Ul Nadanam and Veli Nadanam. He dances outside the temple and inside the temple all 10 days during the festival. Upper and Jnana Sambandar, both of them have visited the temple and have sung about this temple. And in both their composition, again, the seashore is the central theme. Karayulam Kadalil, Polisangam, Vellipivan, Tilayulang Kadi, Miniholum Thiruvanmiyur. So Shiva is identified as a resident of Thiruvanmiyur, where fishes leap in the backwaters. Probably the backwaters sung about here is the Adayar River, which forms the estuary close, and or a stream from the Adayar River which came close here. So the backwaters and the fishes are jumping in and out of it. So there's a strong wave, and the oysters in the conches are all washed ashore by the waves. Kanayangiya Tankadi Shul Kadalin Puram, Tenayangiya Paimpodil Shul, Thiruvanmiyur. So here again in this verse, Thiruvanmiyur is described as being surrounded by green gardens in which honey shakes by the side of the sea, surrounded by cool and deep backwaters in the jungles. So around 7th century, outskirts of Thiruvanmiyur was still a jungle, Kan, which means a kaadu, Kanayangiya Tankadi Shul. That's what it says. So this was not a very well-developed beachfront kind of a settlement. The temple was there and some small happening place, but it was still surrounded by jungles. And I tell you, till even the last century, it was so. Vandiraitha Tadambudil Idir Kanal Vaitha Tendirai Kadaloda Malgun Thiruvanmiyur. Again, the waters of the sea, which rises as clear waves on the seashore, and the seashore has some gardens. You have marine varieties of plants which would grow on the beachfront, right? So they are there, and that gives you shades for the bees to hum very happily there. The streets were so broad that Upper sings about the Ratha Utsavam, the chariot festival in which the deity was brought out in the temple. Yeah, so that's how broad the streets were during the 7th century. Chediyar Madhavi Shul Thiruvanmiyur. Madhavi is a creeper. So a creeper that was very popular here around the temple probably has again influenced. So, these are the ways that literature documents natural phenomena, the life then, social life, individuals, practices, traditions, activities like the kind of food that you ate or the dressing, jewelry, all of it has been documented in these poems. It's not only the deity and his Puranas. Some of these has very beautiful description of the society that it was then. I think we've dealt with 4 temples, but it does not get over there. You have another Padal Petra Sthalam in the west of Chennai called Thiruvalidayam. Today, it is more popularly known as Padi, which is very popular for its industrial setup. That's where one of the Padal Petra Sthalam is. It's from the times of, again, the 7th century. Shiva as Valishwarar is enshrined there. Very close to it, near Ambattur, is Vada Tirumullai Vail, which is again sung by the Nayanmars. And the deity there is Masilamanishwarar, and a temple from the Chola period is still there. Thiruverkadu, a lot of you know that the place popular for a temple for Karumari Amman. Let me tell you, it's also a Padal Petra Sthalam. There again, Shiva's temple is there, and he is worshipped as Vedapurishwarar. So apart from Karumari Amman, there is also a Vedapurishwarar temple. Tirunirmalai, not 1 or 2, but Perumal is enshrined in 4 different forms. And this is a small hillock. Yeah, we all know about hills in Padani and Tirupati, but there is one inside Chennai, which is also a sacred hill. Alvar has climbed upon the hill for sure to sing the deity. And here on top of the hill is Ranganatha Perumal by the Alvars. On the ECR, we all drive down the ECR for a weekend gateway. Yeah, we just drive down and take a break from the city and have a nice drive and come back. Alvar has also, probably walked or drove his horse pretty much on the East Coast Road, but for a different reason. It was not a leisure for him, to worship the deity there in Thiruvidavendai, en route near Kovalam, which is filled with beach resorts today, has the East Coast Road has 2 very ancient shrines active from the Pallava times. One is Thiruvidavendai, and the other is Tirukadalmalai, Mahabalipuram by itself. The temple, which has been sung about by the Alvars. More so, Mahabalipuram is also the birthplace for one of the Alvars. Bhudatta Alvar, the second among the 12 Alvars, was born in Mahabalipuram. And so was Mylapore. The third, Pei Alvar, was born and raised in Mylapore. And that was where he, in fact, initiated Tirumalizai Alvar, who was from Tirumalizai, which is also in the outskirts of Chennai, very close to Pundamalli. So let me tell you, the city to which you belong to, and in good probability, the neighborhood where you are today has all been historically significant, and one way or the other has some historic importance. Of course, Thirunindravu, yeah, I've just made these temples from the western side, which is generally outside the heart of the city kinds. So Padi, Tirumallai Vayil, Thiruverkadu, Thirunindravu, all of this is from the western side, and these also have equally old and imposing temple complexes for you to visit. With that, I would like to finish my presentation with a small prayer to the temple that I authored when the city was affected by flood and hurricane and whatnot a couple of years back. Every December, we were facing some or the other challenge. So I just authored this song sometime back then. வேதனார் விரும்பியுரை ஒற்றியூர் தலமுதலா மாதரால் சீருற்ற மாவல்லி கேணியுடன் ஏதமுன்றறியாது இலங்குமா திருமகிலை கீதமென் குயிலாரும் வான்மியூர் வரை பரவி காதலும் கலை கல்வி கருணையோடு அறம் செய்கை ஈதெல்லாம் சேரவளர் சென்னையாம் இந்நகரம் வேதமில் எம்பெருமான் பாதங்கள் வழிகாட்ட ஏதுமோர் குறையிலதாய் இவ்வுலகு உயர்ந்திடவே. So starting from Tiruvattriyur, where Shiva himself wanted to rent a place and live, and Thiruvallikeni, which is popular for the women there, the matchless women there, and Tirumagilai, filled with innocent residents, Thiruvanmiyur, where the residents get to enjoy the music of cuckoo birds. Let this city of Chennai live long and prosper, and let all the people there with so much love, arts, education, all of it flourishing in this city. Let the Almighty protect the city and let the city live long. With that, I would like to conclude my session. That slide there on your screen shows you my website and my Instagram handle and other social media handles, where I generally write about things that interest me and my field of expertise. And that will also have announcements about my other talks and programs and webinars and lecture series. In fact, I'm starting a series next week, a 5-day series on history of Shaivism, Shiva worship and Shiva's iconography, composition on Shiva and all of that. And we are also planning a 1-day trip around Chennai to a couple of these temples around Chennai in the month of March, the first week of March. So you can follow my handles to get notifications for programs that I conduct and where I'm a part of. Thank you once again, and congratulate. I'd like to again congratulate the mentors, the teachers, the students, and the parents who are a part of this school, where they are really striving to put arts at the center, dance very close to it, and all associated art forms along with for a holistic development of the students. Murthy ellam vaadi engal mona guru vaadi arul vaarthai endrum vaadi anbar vaadi parabarame ellam Sri Tyagaraja Kripai Sri Tyagaraja Maharajo Vijayate Arura Tyagesa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening talk. As you just rightly said, we are all been through at some point in our lives or the other, even children, even though they are not as old as the adults and parents here, somewhere along with their parents, they would have went to these temples for some occasions. So and the time we would have just gone, okay, but now I think it's a good after this talk, definitely when they visit these temples, at least any temple for that matter, first they think about their name. Why is the name? That's something as basic as they can have a thought about it, that can kindle the interest to learn and go and see different temples. So thank you very much. And so many, of course, in Chennai, there are so many such historically relevant, important temples around the city. So this is a good start. This will kindle their interest to look for more such things and learn about more temples. And when they go to these places next time, I have had that feeling when I went to Brihadishwara temple and stood before the deity there. Oh, this is where Rajaraja would have stood, when he did his first. That feeling I have experienced. So I'm sure after when you said that, I was able to relate to how I felt when I thought, of course, when praying and Adalathyam Thandi, there is this feeling of, oh, I'm standing in the exact place where ஒரு fan girl moment in சொல்லுவான்னு நினைக்கிறேன் இந்த காலத்து terms. So when you see your favorite hero or heroine, you know, when you go to their place or when you see them, and the fan girl moment was something which I still cherish even today. So as you said, when you visit such temples, you know, oh, this is where they would have stood 1,500 years ago. That's something, you know, such a rich history that our land holds. And I think it is very imminent that we should appreciate, of course, as much as we adopt other cultures and other things, we should appreciate who we are and the roots that we hold, so that we are very proud about what he hold and who we are. அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து தெரிஞ்சிருக்கணுங்கிறது தான் எங்களோட intention. So thank you very much on that note. I'm opening the house to any questions that they may have.
Please. You needn't restrict your questions only to this presentation. If there are other doubts associated with temples or history heritage, please be free to ask. யாராவது ஒருத்தர் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணீங்கன்னா வரிசையா எல்லாருக்கும் கேள்வி வரும்.
Yes, Harini, please carry on. Yes.
So, namaste. I would like to ask you two questions. One, on a very generic note, what intrigued you to take up this study in general? And B, I would, since history is the most contested topic for, you know, it's like this battleground for all political ideologies. So why do you think people, even with no interest to learn history, should know history? So I just have these two questions.
To me personally, I think it was my parents to begin with. Yeah, who, I mean, like, I don't have any background from a family of historians or heritage enthusiasts or anything to do with arts, nothing. Father was a banker and my mom was a homemaker. But our holidays were centered around temples, almost every holiday. And my dad made it a habit to, encourage us make a scrapbook the moment we are back from the trip. And, with photographs that he had taken in his 36 film camera, and to develop it and help us make a scrapbook. And we would buy these 10 rupees Sthala books in the temple, the Devasthanam publication. Will come read and probably make a note of it somewhere. And I'll have to do an illustration of the Sthala also. Yeah, with mastic drawings. I still recall from my first, second standard, this was how we developed an interest. That slowly paved way. And secondly, my school, Padma Seshadri Balabhavan, that did play a major role in exposing us to so many associated fields and opening the gates for us to make this as a not a neglected part of the curriculum. Though it's not a mainstream, we had our academic coursework, but apart from that, a very recognized platform also. Yeah, so the encouragement is from there. Third, probably destiny had its own way. Now I'm not even practicing my profession, whatever I have my academic degree with. I've come far away from it, and though I have to introduce myself as an architect by education, I don't practice architecture at all. So, and yeah, to second question, just because people meddle with it, and making it a battleground for the politicians, that's the very reason why non-historians should also learn history. Yeah, I mean, this is like science. Unfortunately, thanks to pop culture, films, the way profession is looked upon here, yeah, subjects like fine arts, humanities, history, and all that had been conveniently sidelined. And education is considered at par with making money. Yeah, that's a major drawback, especially in the last couple of generations. It had fallen as a curse on the society as a whole. So history has been conveniently sidelined. But let me tell you, every discipline has its own history. You like it or not, even if you start practicing medicine, medical history will be there for you to learn, a part of it. Yeah, so you can never get rid of history. I tell you, you can live without a working knowledge of physics or chemistry or atomic science or rocket science, but not remembering what happened yesterday is not humanly possible. Yeah, so if knowing what happened yesterday is what history is all about, then we all live with it every day, every moment. Yeah, be it from starting from your own relationship with people around you, personal relationship, or you develop yourself as a personality, as a character. Everything will have some analysis of history. And for you to have a clear plan for the working plan for what next, yeah, your plan ahead, you need to have an in-depth analysis of what happened yesterday. Yeah, without that, be today or tomorrow, both of it is not going to be structured well for you. So to learn and analyze from the past has a major role in shaping us as individuals and as a society. So learning history is extremely important.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Oh, somebody raised hand. I just moved past. Yes, Mitra.
Yeah, namaste, sir. When you started talking, you said few lines in Tamil. Like, just out of curiosity, I wanted to know what it was.
That's from Manikavachakar's Tiruvasakam, a set of songs that he has composed in the genre called Thiru Ammanai, which is about women passing the ball game. Yeah, in those days, when they even leisure games used to involve thoughts about the Almighty, and as they play passing the ball, each one will chant a verse, and the complete poem gets finished. So that is authored by Manikavachakar on Tiruvannamalai, which is my hometown, and I owe whatever I am to that Lord there. And so my ancestors have served in the temple there, and so it's a personal connect to the temple. So any talk, English, Tamil, whatever I'm talking about, generally starts with that song as the invocatory verse.
That's amazing. It's lovely.
Yeah, I also have one more question.
Please.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so many places are like one second. Yeah, Tirumailai and then Tirunirmalai. So does the Tiru depict Shivan or?
The Tiru is an auspicious word, and it just means Shri in Sanskrit. Yeah, when you address somebody with respect or something which is sacred or auspicious, Tiru comes into place.
Next, anybody else have any other questions?
கொஸ்டினா இல்ல சார், எனக்கு ஒவ்வொரு தடவை நாட்டியம் இருக்கும் போதும் அந்தந்த ஊர்ல இருக்கிற தேவாரம், திருவாசகம் அதெல்லாம் பார்த்துதான் எடுத்துன்னு போவேன். ஒரு தடவை சிதம்பரம் பண்ணும்போது 60 நாயன்மார்கள் பத்தி பாட்டு இருந்தது, அதுதான் எடுத்துன்னு ஆளாவது என்ன ஆகணும்னு சொல்லிட்டு ஃபுல்லாவே சிவனாடியார்கள் பத்தி தான், அதுதான் எடுத்து பண்ணினோம். அதுக்கும் ஒரு தடவை போற்றி திருத்தாண்டகம் அப்பர் போற்றி நின்ற திருத்தாண்டகம் அதெல்லாம் எடுத்து அது மாதிரிதான் பாட்டு எடுத்துன்னு போவேன். யூஸ்வலா பதங்கள் அதெல்லாம் இல்லாம. அந்த சிதம்பரம் அண்ணாமலை யூனிவர்சிட்டியில ஒரு ப்ரொஃபசர் இருக்கார், தமிழ் ப்ரொஃபசர். அவர் தான் எனக்கு ஹெல்ப் பண்ணுவார். நான் கேட்பேன் எனக்கு இந்த மாதிரிலாம் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்ட்டு. அவரை நான் எடுத்தது கரெக்ட் தானான்னு அவர்கிட்ட கேட்டுப்பேன் நான். ஸோ அவர் தான் அதோட மீனிங்லாம் எனக்கு அனுப்புவார். ஸோ இந்த தடவை நாட்டியாஞ்சலி எங்களுக்கு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் திருப்பாலைத்துறை. அது நான் கேள்விப்படல அந்த ஊரை பத்தி. அதுக்கப்புறம் தான் போய் பார்த்தேன்னா அதுல நிறைய விஷயங்கள் இருக்கு.
அற்புதம் கூட ஒண்ணு நடந்திருக்கு ஞானசம்பந்த தேவாரம்.
அந்த கோவில் பத்தி சொல்லுங்க.
திருப்பாலைத்துறை நியர் டுடேஸ் Trichy, and அந்த one of the Padal Petra Sthalam, ஞானசம்பந்த பெருமான் on his way to கொங்குநாடு, which is
திருச்சி கிட்ட ஒண்ணு இருக்கு. இது மாயவரம் கிட்ட ஒண்ணு இருக்கு, திருப்பாலைத்துறை.
பாலைத்துறையா? பராய்த்துறை. திருப்பாலத்துறை. ஓகே, அது மாயவரம் கிட்ட இருக்கு.
மாயவரம் கிட்ட.
அதுவும் ஞானசம்பந்தர் பதிகம் பெற்ற ஸ்தலம் தான். நீங்க அந்த சைட்ல போனீங்கனாலே உங்களுக்கு மாயவரம், கும்பகோணம், திருவாரூர் பெல்ட், almost every village will have a Padal Petra Sthalam. And பாலைத்துறை as such, துறைன்னு முடிகிற மாதிரியான சில தலங்கள் இருக்கு. கடம்பந்துறை, திருப்பாலத்துறை, திருமாந்துறை, இந்த மாதிரி துறையினே முடிகிற இருக்கும். The clue is that it is somewhere on the, quite literally on the banks of a river. So துறைன்னு சொல்லி வந்ததுன்னா it's on the banks of a river னு நீங்க அசியூம் பண்ணிக்கலாம். So அப்படி ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணியே பார்க்கலாம். என்னைக்கு இது 1ஆம் தேதி நடக்குதா திருப்பாலத்துறையில?
மியூட்ல இருக்கா?
1ஆம் தேதி சிவராத்திரி அன்னைக்கு அங்க பண்றோம் சார்.
Beautiful.
நீங்க மொத்தமா ஸ்கூல்ல எல்லாரும் சேர்ந்து போவேளா இல்ல தனித்தனியா?
யார் இன்ட்ரெஸ்ட் இருக்கோ, யார்
availability and இந்த ஸ்டூடண்ட்ஸ் ஒரு குரூப்பா தான் as a ஸ்கூலா தான் போவோம்.
ஸ்கூல்ல தான் போவோம். பட் ஒரு 5-6 குழந்தைங்க வந்து எல்லா வருஷமும் வந்துட்டு இருக்கா. லாஸ்ட் ஒரு 7 years 8 years கண்டினியூ வந்துட்டு இருக்கா. இது வந்து சிவராத்திரி அன்னைக்கு திருத்துறைப்பூண்டியில பண்றோம்.
சரி. அது பாடல்
நாகப்பட்டினம்
இங்கே பாறைக்குடை அப்பர் பெருமான் பதிகம் பாடி இருக்காரு.
ஆமா.
திருப்பாலைத்துறை அங்க இது தாருகாவன யாகத்துல சுவாமியை எதிர்த்து ஒரு யாகம் பண்ணி அதுல இருந்து இந்த நிறைய சுவாமியை அழிக்கிறதுக்காக நிறைய யானை மான் மழு எல்லாம் புறப்பட்டு வரும். அந்த மாதிரி புலியும் ஒண்ணு புறப்பட்டு வரும். சோ அந்த புலியை சம்ஹாரம் பண்ணி அதோட தோலை வந்து சுவாமி இடுப்புல உடுத்திப்பார்.
அதுதான் டாக்டர் வர்ணம் கோரியோகிராஃப் பண்ணும்போது பண்ணா.
ஆஹா, இது சார்தூலஹரம் சுவாமிக்கே ஒரு ஃபார்ம். அது சார்தூலம்னா புலியை சம்ஹாரம் பண்ணி அதோட தோலை இடுப்புல உடுத்திப்பார் சுவாமி. அங்கவஸ்திரமா புலி தோலை உடுத்திப்பார். அது நடந்தது இந்த ஸ்தலத்துல தான். சோ சுவாமி வந்து புலித்தோல் முதல்ல உடுத்தின்றது திருப்பாலத்துறையில. And there is also a very well protected silo for storing of grains right outside the temple. It's a state archaeology monument. It is still in working condition. So the silos and granaries were also a part of the temple in those days. So everybody who's owning a land in the village, a part of their produce will be offered to the temple silos, which will be used in times of a natural calamity or a war, or if it's a flood or a famine. அந்த மாதிரிலாம் வரும்போது கோவிலோட இதுல இருந்து எடுத்து பொதுமக்களுக்கு கொடுப்பாங்க. அதனால the silo is still there. When you go there, right outside the temple, near the தேரடியிலேயே பார்க்கலாம். அதை மிஸ் பண்ணாம பாருங்க.
கண்டிப்பா கண்டிப்பா.
Definitely.
அதே மாதிரி இந்த திருவிழிமலையில இதான் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டைம் நாங்க பண்றோம். வண்டர்ஃபுல்.
ரொம்ப அழகான கோவில் திருவிழிமலை. Most beautiful temple. The Vimanam is amazing. It's very unique in fact. And அந்த இடத்துக்குமே ஸ்தலபுராணம் ரொம்ப அழகு. மகாவிஷ்ணு தினம் பூஜை பண்ண சுவாமி. அந்த சிவனை வந்து மகாவிஷ்ணு டெய்லி 1000 தாமரைகளால பூஜை பண்ணுவாராம். ஒரு நாள் அதுல ஒரு தாமரை குறைஞ்ச பொழுது தன்னோட கண்ணே தாமரை கண்ணுன்னு சொல்லி கண்ணையே பிடிங்கி சுவாமிக்கு அர்ச்சனை பண்ணிடுவார். அண்ட் சுவாமி வந்து அங்க அம்பாவை கல்யாணம் பண்ணிக்கிறதுக்காக வந்ததுனால சுவாமி இஸ் கால்ட் as மாப்பிள்ளை சுவாமி. And Shiva and Parvati are in a very unique form of, it's actually like a wedding reception portrait photograph. The deities there. சுவாமி ரொம்ப கேஷுவலா இப்படி ஒரு கை இப்படி ஊனி நந்தி மேல இப்படி தலைய கை இப்படி வச்சுட்டு நின்றுட்டு இருப்பார். அம்பாள் in all her maiden gait she'll be standing there. And ரொம்ப கம்பீரமான மூர்த்தி. அதுல சுவாமியோட பீடத்துல மகாவிஷ்ணுடைய கண்ணு காட்டியிருப்பாங்க. If you ask the சிவாச்சாரியார் அவர் தரிசனம் பண்ணி வைக்கும்போது அவர் சொல்லுவார், you can see, and the Vimanam is very beautiful. The tradition says that the Vimanam was brought down to Bhulokam by Mahavishnu.
Beautiful. Nice. I think நீங்க சொன்ன ஐகான் ரொம்ப பாப்புலர் ஐகான் பிரான்ஸ்ல வந்து
ஆமா அது உங்களுக்கு தஞ்சாவூர் மியூசியம்ல அதே மாதிரி ஒரு பிரான்ஸ். பட் இங்க வந்து இட்ஸ் ஸ்டில் இன் வர்ஷிப். நீங்க பார்க்கலாம் சுவாமி அந்த கையை நந்தி மேல இப்படி வச்சிட்டு இருக்கிற அழகே தனியா பார்க்கலாம். அவ்வளவு கம்பீரமா இருக்கும். ரொம்ப கேஷுவலா வெட்டிங் ரிசெப்ஷனுக்கு போஸ் கொடுக்குற மாதிரி கொடுத்துட்டு இருப்பாரு.
Excellent. Lovely, sir. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
I just have one question, sir. நீங்க சொன்னீங்க இல்லையா திருவல்லிக்கேணி பத்தி சொல்லும்போது on the slide it was mentioned ஈக்காடு தாங்கல் உற்சவம் அப்படின்னு இருந்தது.
Oh yeah, ஆமா.
அது what is a connection?
It's a huge property which was gifted to Parthasarathi Perumal around 1800s by a Vaishnavite woman from Ikattatangal. As I told you in the beginning, Ikattatangal is a very ancient settlement. From around 12th century, it's identified as a separate municipality madri or tani governing zone adu. Anga there is a huge plot of land, in fact, which runs to several crores today. And the woman was very knowledgeable, I would say. Avanga enna pannina, in order to retain the ownership of the land, every year Parthasarathi Perumal should come and visit this land at least once in a time.
Okay.
So even during British times, curfew la irundhumbodhu kuda special permission oda Parthasarathi Perumal marched this way all the way from Thiruvallikeni, and he crossed the rivers in between and railway lines and all that and was brought to Ikattatangal. He starts early in the morning, around 2 o'clock in the morning. He'll start from Thiruvallikeni. It's a sight to watch Parthasarathi Perumal traversing through Ranganathan Street and the Panagal Park and crossing all that and coming down to ஈக்காட்டுத்தாங்கல் அசோக் நகர் வழியா ஈக்காட்டுத்தாங்கல் வருவார். And he'll stay there the full day. Madhyanam there will be a grand abhishekam. Evening he'll visit Saidapettai, which is also close by. அங்க ஒரு பழைய பெருமாள் கோவில் இருக்கு. He'll go there. அந்த பெருமாள் will welcome Parthasarathi Perumal, and both of them together will go around in a procession, and they will bid farewell to Parthasarathi Perumal, and he'll go back to Thiruvallikeni midnight that day. And it's a sight to watch Perumal running across the streets. I mean, city kulla cross panni ipdi katta cross panni inda end la and end varikku vandu poradala romba likely.
Usually it will be around the praharam or at least in the locality oda da
route maada veediyile mudinjidum. இப்படி நீங்க ஐ மீன் சம்டைம்ஸ் இந்த உற்சவம் நடந்துட்டே இருக்கும்போது எங்கேயாவது நுங்கம்பாக்கம் சிக்னல் நின்று இருப்போம், பாரசாதி அப்படி கிராஸ் பண்ணி எல்லாம் போவார். ஸோ அது இன்ஃபேக்ட் தட் இஸ் a festival that needs more attention, and as people of Chennai, you know, we should all participate in it. அவ்வளவு முக்கியமான ரொம்ப அழகான ஃபெஸ்டிவல்.
Great. I mean, சொல்ற மாதிரி we have all been brought up in Chennai, and how many of us know about this? I really don't know. In fact, it was I did not know that actually it goes இவ்வளோ ஒரு ஊர் விட்டு ஊர் போய் வந்து ஒரு உற்சவம் வந்து
அந்த டொனேஷன் கொடுத்த அந்த டிவோட்டி the lady, I think அவங்களுக்கு தான் தேங்க்ஸ் சொல்லணும். She ensured that Parthasarathi Perumal comes there once a year, and me, I was born and raised in KK Nagar. I used to feel so happy that, you know, நம்ம பக்கத்துல இவ்வளவு பக்கத்துல ஒரு 5 கிலோமீட்டர் Parthasarathi Perumalé வராருன்னு சொல்லிட்டு we used to look forward for that festival every year.
Amazing. That's great knowledge. We will definitely, you know, நீங்க சொல்ற மாதிரி we can take away a lot of assignments from this talk itself, you know, like visiting all these temples.
Start with your own neighborhood. உங்க ஸ்கூல் இருக்கு இல்லையா, வேளச்சேரியில இருந்தே ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுங்க. Map all the old temples of Velacheri. I tell you, there are two very ancient Chola temples in Velacheri, and one of the most popular philosophers of 17th century was a long time resident of your village, and avana yaarunu kandupidinga. Velacheri இந்த பேர் முதல்ல எதனால வந்ததுன்னு பாருங்க. What was its old name னு கண்டுபிடிங்க. Yeah, start with your own neighborhood, and if there is an annual day or a Vijayadashmi celebration or something that happens in your school, this should probably be a presentation there. உங்க ஸ்தலத்தை நீங்க இருக்கிற அந்த ஊர்ல இருக்கிற சுவாமிக்கு ஒரு அழகான ஸ்தல புராணம் இருக்கு, which is really worth to be crafted into a small dance item. Yeah, you can compose and actually make a small dance item. Velacherikke பண்ணலாம். So try and see if that can be a theme for your annual day or a presentation where you take, you know, where you perform in the banner of your school. When you say it is from Velacheri, I think you are the people who should be working towards popularizing the heritage of the place also.
Absolutely. I think it starts from home.
Yeah, it always starts from home. So நீங்க பண்ணுங்க, உங்க அங்க இருக்கிற சுவாமிக்கு ரொம்ப அழகான ஒரு ஸ்தல புராணம் இருக்கு, which is really ரொம்ப கலர்ஃபுல்லா அத ஒரு டான்ஸ் டிராமாவா கொண்டு வரலாம், ஒரு பெர்ஃபார்மன்ஸ் ஐட்டமா கொண்டு வரலாம். You can borrow songs from other தேவாரம்ஸ் and other things which is close to this புராணம் பண்ணி நீங்க கம்போஸ் பண்ணி ஒரு ஸ்கிரிப்டை ரெடி பண்ணி ஒரு நாட்டிய நாடகமாவோ இல்ல full fledged டான்ஸாவோ you should probably present it.
Yes, definitely. And somebody raised hand.
Hiranmayi, you raised your hand.
I had a question about this thing about the Velacheri. Where are those two ancient Chola temples you told?
That was an assignment for you to find out. You can Google it. There are enough articles on Google also, in fact. Yeah, so find out.
See, this is exactly why we are conducting such things, because it's kindling that interest, and you know, eventually when they read up on one thing, they will get exposed to so many such you know, fascinating. I think in Alam personally, it starts from Ponniyin Selvan. That's the most of people would have, like me, would have started from Ponniyin Selvan, the novel. It's like Harry Potter for those who don't know Ponniyin Selvan, like today's Harry Potter. So adlende idella yaru appdinu padikka arambikumbodu you get to know so many people who have done so many things, and I think it all starts from one single spark like this small assignment. So I think it's great that we have had your time today, sir. Thank you so much for taking time off from your busy schedule and you know, doing this talk for us. And I really hope to have you again on many such more engagements, and you know, wherever we see fit, whenever we can arrange such you know, meetups and workshops, it will be great. In fact, even more of such different topics, you know, like how we had about these temples. So maybe in some other topic of interest and intrigue, we will definitely look to organize. Thank you so very much. Amma, if you want to say any closing words, we can finish the session.
Thank you so much, sir. நான் நாட்டியாஞ்சலி போறதே எல்லா வருஷமும் அதுக்குதான். ஒவ்வொரு வருஷம் ஒவ்வொரு பேட்ச் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் வருவான். ரிப்பீட்டட் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ் இருக்க மாட்டா. அவளுக்கு சிதம்பரம் பாக்குறது தெரியாது, அங்க என்னென்ன இருக்குன்னு தெரியாது. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி மோஸ்ட்லி எல்லா வருஷமும் நாங்க திருவியார் கோவிலையும் பண்ணுவோம், ஐயாரப்பர் கோவில்ல பண்ணுவோம். ஸோ அது அப்பருக்கு காட்சி அளிக்கு கைலாய காட்சி. ஸோ அந்த டீட்டெயில்ஸ்லாம் நான் சொல்லி தெரிஞ்ச உங்களுக்கு தெரியாது, தெரிஞ்ச அளவுக்கு சொல்லுவேன். நான் அதை தெரிஞ்ச கதையெல்லாம்
குரூப் பண்ணணும் நிச்சயமா. And இன்னைக்கு நிறைய ஆன்லைன் ரிசோர்சஸ் இருக்கு. Don't wait for your teachers to help you with all that. The moment she says Tirupalithurai, அன்னைக்கு evening just Google out and find where this place is, what happened there, why are we even going from here all the way to Tanjavur or Pavanasam and performing there, what is forcing us, what is so significant there is should be from your side. Probably இன்னும் ஒரு ஸ்டெப் ahead போய் அந்த ஊருக்கு என்ன பதிகம் இருக்குங்கிறது எல்லாமே இப்ப நெட்ல இருக்கு. You have beautifully crafted website. Not like the times of your guru. Yeah, I mean like எல்லார்கிட்டயும் அப்பெல்லாம் திருமுறை புத்தகம் கூட இருக்காது. அதுக்கே எங்கயா லோக்கல் லைப்ரரிக்கு போகணும். அதுல போயிட்டு you didn't have Google searches or Alexas or others to help us hand pick it. Yeah, index உட்கார்ந்து தேடணும், index page இருக்காது. So இதெல்லாம் தாண்டி தான் they have all come up. Today for you, whatever it is, a base work is already there, done on your phone. Yeah, so you should in fact start spearheading all this and find out for your teachers about இந்த பதிகம் இருக்கு, அது இந்த பண்ணல பாடி இருக்காங்க, சர்க்குருநாதன் சாரோட ரெக்கார்டிங் இருக்கு, இது எப்படி பண்ணலாமாங்கிறது உங்க சைட்ல இருந்து வரணும். Yeah, that's where science and technology has placed you. So put it to some good use.
ஒரு திருவாரூர்ல ஒரு போகும்போது ராஜபா நடனம் பாப்போம் சார்.
அவசியம். இப்போ உற்சவம் ஆரம்பிக்குது, பாத்துறீங்களா? ரொம்ப சந்தோஷம். ரொம்ப
திருவாரூர்ல
மகாபாகியம்.
அது பார்த்தோம். அதுக்கப்புறம் லாஸ்ட் இயர் நாங்க வைத்தீஸ்வரன் கோவில் போயிருந்தோம்.
சரி.
சிவராத்திரி அன்னைக்கு ஒரு 12 மணிக்கு 12:30 எங்களோடது. ஸோ அந்த கோவில் நிர்வாகி சொன்னா எங்களுக்கு இப்போ ஒரு ப்ரொசஷன் இருக்கு, அதை முடிச்சுட்டு பண்றீங்களா இல்ல உங்களுக்கு முடிச்சுட்டு இப்ப நாங்க பண்ணட்டுமான்னு நான் சொன்னேன், நாங்க தான் வெயிட் பண்ணா, சாமி வெயிட் பண்ண கூடாது, நீங்க பண்ணுவோம், அது முடிச்சதுக்கு அப்புறம் நாங்க பண்றோம்னு. அதனால நாங்க வந்து ஒரு கைலாய வாத்தியம்னு ஒண்ணு வாசிச்சுட்டு ஸ்படிகலிங்கம்னு நினைக்கிறேன் தலையில வச்சிருந்து ஒரு டான்ஸ் பண்ணா. அது ஃபுல்லா கோயில் இருக்க ஒர்க் பண்றவாதான் பண்ணா. ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது அந்த கைலாய வாத்தியம். எனக்கு இன்னமும் அது இந்த வருஷமும் பார்க்கணும்னு ஆசை. அந்த அளவுக்கு ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது. மிஸ் பண்ணாம அது போன வருஷம் பார்த்த குழந்தை எல்லாம் ரொம்ப என்ஜாய் பண்ணா. ஐ திங்க் மித்ரா வந்துருந்தா நினைக்கிறேன் லாஸ்ட். அந்த இது ரொம்ப ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கு.
Yeah, definitely, such things will help us find out more such things in other different temples when they visit.
கிடையாது, உங்களுக்கு தெரியாது. நாமளும் நிறைய வைத்தீஸ்வரன் கோயில் நிறைய போயிருக்கோம். ஆனா அப்படி ஒண்ணு நடக்கிறதுன்றது எங்களுக்கு தெரியாது. எங்களுக்கு போன்ல இருந்தது, நாங்க அதை ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ண கூட எங்களுக்கு தோணல. அவ்வளவு மெய் மறந்து பார்த்துட்டு இருந்தோம்.
ஆமா, அதுதான் வீட்டுக்கு வந்தப்போ அதை ரெக்கார்ட் பண்ணிருக்கலாமே அப்படின்னா அந்த அளவுக்கு it was so mesmerizing. I think living in that moment was more important. So yeah, this gives a chance for us to go and see when they
நாங்க எல்லாம் ஸ்டேஜ்ல இருக்கோமா, அது ரொம்ப நல்லா பார்க்க முடியுது. நல்ல கூட்டம் இருந்தாலும் எங்களால நாங்க எங்க குரூப் மட்டும்தான் ஸ்டேஜ்ல இருந்தோம். அதனால எங்களால ரொம்ப நல்ல பார்க்கக்கூடிய ஒரு வாய்ப்பு.
Great. Thank you, sir. Thank you so
much.
Thank you. அதாவது உங்களோட பேசினது ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு. நிறைய விஷயங்கள் தெரிஞ்சிட்டோம்.
சிவா நமஸ்காரம்.
இன்னும் நிறைய சந்திப்போம் சார்.
Thank you, madam. Namaskar.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. If you have any more questions that you want to ask, sir, you can WhatsApp me or email me, and I can, we can get in touch, or you can email him directly, that you have all the details on the screen. So you can, at a later stage, if you wanted to contact, please feel free to contact us or sir directly with your questions. So I hope that's okay, sir. I've just told that on your behalf. I hope that's okay for you. Yeah. So lovely. Thank you so much. We will meet in the next expert talk in some time regarding some Sanskriti classes. Okay. Thank you, sir. I will stop the recording. Good.